you know, put you back where you needed to be, you know, right within striking distance of another shot. How'd it feel walking out of there with the win over Brown?
It felt great. You know, Brown's a tough dude. You know, he really is. He's been in there with some of the best, and he always ends up finishing the fight. You know, and I knew that going into that fight. That's why I sort of went a different route. You know, once I got the first takedown, I knew that he was dangerous on the ground, so sort of felt good to stay on top of somebody instead of just letting him back up. You know, scoring some points there, which is always a confidence booster. And so you got to get it like that. You know, like I said, he's a tough dude. I'm very happy to be able to fight in Dallas and walk out with another win.
And you know, let's talk about that. It seemed you got a little bit of criticism about that, but in a sense, you were going back to where a lot of people thought that was the strongest part of your game. It's mixing in your wrestling and then throwing in the power. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with you being the most efficient Johny Hendricks you can be?
Exactly. You know, and that's what we sort of got to is that you know we you know I want to put on a show for the fans, but I also have to win. You know, look where that got me.
Yeah.
I mean, put on a show for the fans and you end up losing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to get back to whatever I win at. And, you know, it does mix things up. It does make things where, you know, you're sitting there and it makes you unpredictable. And then you can actually throw harder and you can get people to, you know, be more offensive and worried about certain things. So I think it's going to play into my game really well.
Did it make you shrug your shoulders a little bit, like, afterwards, like, you know, because we see a lot of times, we see guys that say the wrestlers, they fall in love with their power, they never go back to their wrestling, okay? You went back to your wrestling, like I said, the most efficient Johny Hendricks we've seen, you know, and did you kind of shrug your shoulders with, like, what's this brushback coming? Like, I fought a great fight over a tough guy, and I got a victory.
Yeah, and that's it, is that you got to sit there, and sometimes, you know, the fans are very hard to please, you know, and you just got to accept that, and sometimes you just sit there and say, I mean, I did my best, and you know, my best was that little style, and I had to do it, and I won. And maybe the next one I can mix it up a little bit better, you know. And it's you've got to constantly adapt. You know, you can't sit there and say, okay, I'm just going to be a striker. Well, I fell into that. I mean, just a striker. I started outpointing everybody, but sometimes you don't get the win. You know what I mean? I outpointed a lot of people in the last couple of fights, and you don't win them. So, what wins the fights? Well, whenever you can hold somebody down and punch them a bunch and do those kind of things, well, that is definitely a good notch on your belt. And if it goes to a decision, nice to have under your belt as well.
That's one of the most talent-filled divisions in the UFC. It's kind of crazy. Where do you see movement happening?
I see movement happen, you know, after this January fight. See what happens, and then see where I lay. You know what I mean? I'm sort of gonna, you know, we talked about it, thought about it, and I might take a fight, I might not. You know what I mean? We're still weighing things out. I want to see where we fall and see what happens. But right now, I see myself as a #1 contender, and you know, I took a fight, and guess what? It took a belt away from me, a belt opportunity. You know, I had a shot at the belt, and Roy McDonald had a fight. And so I was like, man, I don't want one of them to jump over me, so I took a fight. That fight ended up not happening. It cost me a title shot.
But you talk about, like, when you get injured and then you continue to keep fighting, do you think maybe you didn't take breaks long enough in between injuries? Did that make you more apprehensive and then fight more for points? Or was there anything that maybe kind of pulled Johny Hendricks back a little bit?
Yeah, the bicep wasn't 100% yet whenever I took that last fight. But, you know, I thought it was. You know what I mean? You don't know until you get into combat situations. You know what I mean? Just like you don't know if a guy's going to fight or flight when a bullet whizzes by you. It's sort of the same thing. You know, you could sit there and say, oh yeah, it feels awesome, it feels awesome. You get in there and it doesn't feel like it should. But, you know, again, it's a learning curve. You just sit there and you know, that's what we worked on, and it ended up coming back strong.
Because I wonder about that, because some of these guys are just so phenomenal, but I don't know if sports science has caught up with the demands of the MMA athlete yet.
Has it? You know, realistically, all that boils down to your mind. I mean, in my mind, I believed I was ready. I believed I was 100%. And, you know, I've wrestled through a lot of things. You know what I mean? I've been through a lot of things in my life. And in those things, I've always been able to push through it, you know. I was able to push through that one, too. It just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, you know. And, you know, everything's a learning curve. So what you do is just sit there and say, okay, it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. Then you come back and you come back stronger.
Talk about your diet and weight now between fights.
My diet and stuff between fights is don't eat a whole piece of pizza. Eat a little bit of it. You know what I mean? So I'm still on my diet. You know, I'm walking around instead of blowing up to 220. You know, I'm at 202, 203 right now. I've been lifting weights for the last month now. I've got back into the gym. You know what I mean? I'm trying to fix up some holes, stuff like that. So, you know, I'm feeling better about that. You know, even at training at 202, I feel better. 100% better than I did at 220. And I'm not as fat, so I'm actually able to do more stuff. I'm actually able to lift, and you know, and that's something that we got away from for about 3 years. You know, we didn't lift at all because I was always stronger than everybody else, and then everybody else sort of caught up to me. And now I'm lifting again, so you know, I mean, I feel strong again. I feel good. You know, now it's just mixing it all together to get 100% Johnny in the octagon every fight.
How's your arm?
My arm is feeling, yeah, it's feeling good. You know, benching, doing one-arm benches and stuff like that, dumbbells, all that. It's right there with my left arm. It's feeling great now. Finally, you know, it took me a little while to get it back, but it's there now. You know, there's still little tweaks here and there, but nothing that you feel in a fight.
Johnny, obviously you want whoever's got the belt next, but aside from that, who else in the division would you like to take on? Who would make a good fight?
You know, I don't really care. You know what I mean? So let's say that Roy McDonald beats Lawler and it's a really close fight and it goes into they do a rematch, right? Well, then whoever Dana White sends my way, then that's who we're going to fight.
So CM Punk, you'd be like, yeah, let's do it?
CM Punk, yeah. If it was him, then yeah, I would do it. You know, that'd be a weird jump for him, you know, to jump to the #1 contender. But if that happened, then if Dana White thought that was a smart move to put him in there with me, then we would do it.
Would you take a last minute fight at like 185?
A last minute fight? Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, boy. You know, if I'm training, which I am now, and say something like that did happen, you know, I wouldn't put it past me, you know.